Welcome everyone to my look back at IDW Sonic Year 3. Like the previous 2 years, I will be summarizing the events of the comics released in 2020, primarily for those who don't watch my reviews, or if you have seen my stuff, this video can serve as a reminder of what happened, and we can all reminisce together. Before we get started, I should point out that there will be spoilers up to issue 36, along with the miniseries and specials released in 2020, and any future solicitations as of this recording. Let's not waste any more time and get right to it. The first goal of Year 3 was to conclude the plotline of Year 2, the Metal Virus saga. A quick reminder, the Metal Virus was Eggman's newest weapon designed to infect any organic thing, either through liquid metal goo or by an infected creature. Those infected beings, known as Zombots, wandered around aimlessly searching for new victims to infect. Eggman had control of them at the start, but the more people the virus nabs, the harder it is for the Doctor to keep the Zombots on his leash. It's gotten to the point that Dr. Starline, Eggman's assistant, had to find a solution to the Zombot control problem, which involved getting in touch with the Deadly Six. He hoped that they can control the Zombots, while he can control them thanks to the cacophonic conch. The heroes have been on the receiving end of this mess, losing cities, towns, friends, innocence, the possibility for a cure, and for the moment, hope. When we last saw our heroes, they were rescuing the survivors of Spiral Hill Village, Tangle's hometown. Tangle herself did not make it. She was infected by her transformed friend, Jewel. Before turning into a Zombot herself, she bought time for the escape shuttle to depart. There's also a new problem for Sonic himself. Before, he was able to keep his infection at bay thanks to running it off. Now, the virus is starting to adapt to his speed, which means it's only a matter of time before he succumbs. Our heroes were experiencing their darkest moment, and they were not the only ones affected by the Metal Virus. IDW Sonic's 2020 annual presented Untold Tales of the Metal Virus, a series of 6 stories showing how characters besides, say, Sonic, Tails, and Amy handle this crisis. Wait, scratch that. 5 stories do this, while 1 story is loosely connected to the saga. I'll get to it momentarily. Story 1 follows Big the Cat once again trying to find Froggy. His search takes him through the events of years 1 and 2 of the comic, from Neo-Metal Sonic's invasion of Angel Island to the Zombot outbreak at various locations. Ian Flynn, who wrote this story, deliberately used Sonic Adventure 2 for inspiration. For those unaware, that game had Big the Cat pop in the levels in a blink and you'd miss it kind of way, and sometimes you have to really look for the big purple guy. It also explained why he was in Restoration HQ in issue 22. If you're wondering, he left just before the Zombots ran amok in the base, so he was spared this time. Big finally found Froggy near Spiral Hill Village, just as Eggman deployed the Metal Virus goo in the area. The two successfully fought off the Zombots. Unfortunately, Froggy made contact with one of them, and the story ended with Zombot Froggy infecting an unsuspecting Big and their home. The second story features how average citizens handle the Zombot crisis. In this case, it's the employees of a radio station just outside Sunset City. Night the Owl, the evening DJ, and Don the Rooster, the station's custodian. I'm aware these names are puns, so let's move on. What started as a normal evening turned frightening as Night started receiving listener calls about people getting sick, looking metallic, and being under attack. Don decides it's too much and flees, while Night elected to stay, since the station is #1 for news and advice. He made the right call, sorry for the pun, as a member of the Restoration dialed in. They want Knight's help in passing the word to any citizen to come to the Golden Flicky Hotel, and they will provide a way to contact them if assistance is needed. Dawn, overhearing the conversation via radio, returns to the station and boards up the place, giving Knight the chance to pass on the Restoration information to anyone still listening in Sunset City. Their actions pay off as it sets up things for the Crisis City 2-parter, the one in which Shadow became a Zombot thanks to his foolish pride, and E123 Omega was torn to pieces with the exception of his head. This story about these small-time heroes was written by frequent artist Evan Stanley. I point this out because it will be relevant later in the video. Story 3 has Metal Sonic confront the possibility that he may not be the one true Sonic. He visits an area with a container of metal virus goo, and after seeing a picture of an infected Sonic, reaches into it to grab the stuff. Being made of metal, the goo slides right off. It's unknown what's going on in Metal Sonic's head. That he can never match or surpass Sonic, or maybe that if Sonic transforms, Eggman might have an actual robotic Sonic as his servant. We may never know. Story 5, yes you heard me, Story 5 shows how Vector and SBO capture Zombot Charmy as seen in issue 22. While the result of this brief struggle was a short-term victory for the Chaotix, it ultimately turned into a long-term disaster for them and everyone at Restoration HQ. The sixth and final story had Tangle's friend Jewel help the president of the Sonic Fan Club, the same one from the 2019 annual, find his members. They find the vice president, but all this was taking place while Eggman was deploying Metal Virus goo in the area. As such, the other club members transform into Zombots and chase the trio back into the village. Fun fact, we get a sneak peek of this event in Big Story. While they make it back safely, they unfortunately touch some of the goo and began transforming themselves. It wouldn't matter since Eggman's spaceship arrives over the village. It does allow Jewel enough time to send an SOS to Tangle. Issue 22 shows Tangle receiving it, and the end of this story would set up Tangle's fate in issue 24. Now let's go back to story 4, the loosely connected one I mentioned earlier. The only link to the Metal Virus saga is Starline observing Eggman's handiwork. The real story is Starline stumbling upon Eggman's man cave. There he keeps things to help him relax. This includes action figures he made that he plays with, plans strategies against his enemies. Starline is impressed until he sees a figure of himself as a robot, and Eggman promptly kicks him out. This had to have taken place sometime before Starline lost faith in his idol due to being Sonic obsessed and not having a plan to regain control of the Zombots. Hence the dangerous plan to bring in the Deadly Six. Time to end the Metal Virus saga. Eggman is not happy Starline brought the Deadly Six on board the face ship. Starline's positive he has the situation under control by blowing into the Zeddy's weakness, the Cacophonic Conch, aka the Magic Conch Shell. Two problems. First, Starline doesn't have the same lung capacity as Eggman, so he tires out quickly. And second, he shouldn't have stand so close to the Zeddy. As a result, the Zeddy quickly take control of the situation in a number of ways. They steal the Magic Conch Shell and gain control of Metal Sonic. This forces Starline to retreat through a portal, followed closely by Eggman and a pursuing Metal Sonic. The Zeddy, having full control of the Metal Virus operation, each take a Chaos Emerald to boost their power. There are hordes of Zombots to control after all. The 7th will continue to power the face ship. Zavok stays on board while the rest of the Zeddy split off to cause mayhem throughout the world. Some use the Zombots to terrorize the remaining populace like Zaz and, surprisingly, Zor. Others are using the Zombots to force them into servitude or else. Either way, the world's screwed for the moment. Meanwhile, Eggman, Starline, and a freed Metal Sonic arrive on Angel Island, not too long after Sonic and his friends arrived. Knuckles is not happy they brought trouble to his island again. It takes a call from Rouge the Bat to shift everyone's focus. If you recall, she disappeared after Shadow became a Zombot. It turns out, she snuck aboard the face ship hoping to sabotage it, but witnessing the Zeddy takeover changed things. Now she's coordinating with Orbot and Cubot on the Zeddy's movements. Eggman's robotic lackeys managed to convince Zavok that they can help him without brainwashing. The gathered heroes and villains need a plan to stop all of this. A cure is out of the question, since according to Eggman, the virus is constantly mutating, which again explains why Sonic's speed is no longer burning it off. Also, the constant mutations will eventually cause the virus and any infected cell to dissolve in 200 years, which is exactly what Silver saw when he returned to the future. Speaking of our psychic hedgehog, he returns to the group after a disastrous encounter with Zombots. Don't worry, he's not infected. They bounce around ideas like, let's use the Master Emerald, which Knuckles immediately shuts down, to let's gather the Chaos Emeralds for Sonic. The only problem with that is, it gives him unlimited power. He can't just do anything with it. Plus, again, they are in the hands of the Deadly Six. Eggman offers a solution to the Supersonic problem. Have him use Starline's Warp Topaz to warp away all of the Metal Virus at once. Starline is against the idea. 1, it's his warping gem, and 2, he thinks it's too risky to use it with the Chaos Emeralds, since too much power might cause some bad things to happen. He instead plans to solve the crisis his way and opens a portal to leave, but Eggman and Metal Sonic quickly grab him, take the Warp Topaz glove, then toss him through the portal, essentially firing him. Now comes the hard part, getting the Chaos Emeralds. Not only do the Zeti possess them, they're also networked, so if one of them are attacked, the others will know. So Tails and Eggman take parts of the shuttle and build a multi-portal generator. The plan is, Rouge and Orbot will tell everyone the location of the Zeti, and they'll split into teams to take them all on simultaneously. They'll need sufficient numbers to pull this off, so Amy calls in the Babylon Rogues. I mean, what's the point of stealing from the world if there is no world to steal from? Sonic himself cannot join them since his condition is getting worse, but he does brief them on each Zeti and who should best fight them. And with that, the final battle to save the world begins. Tails and Amy go after Zombomb. They keep to the rooftops to avoid him and the Zombots. They defeat him by closing the gate on his stomach, and they grab his Chaos Emerald before the Zombots arrive. Silver and Whisper take on Zor, with Silver having a little difficulty thanks to Zor's shadow clones. Whisper, with the help of her Wisp companions, snipe the Chaos Emerald from Zor's chest. This allows Silver to crush Zor's robotic owl, and he and Whisper head back through the portal, leaving Zor to embrace his demise. I'm serious. The Babylon Rogues tackle Master Zeke, and the old guy gives the team some trouble, including breaking Waves and Storm's air boards. The group eventually coordinates and takes him out. Rather than abandoning his teammates, Jet ties the emerald to his airboard and sends it back through the portal. Espio faces off against Zaz. Yes, the ninja went solo for this fight. Originally, Knuckles was going to join him, but since Eggman and Metal Sonic are in the same area as the Master Emerald, yeah, Knuckles was right to stay behind. It's fine because the calm and collected Espio is more than a match for the chaotic Zaz, and our favorite ninja Chameleon succeeds in his task. Notably, Zaz is one of 2 Zeti that don't fall victim to the Zombots. Finally, there's Gemerald and Cream versus Xena, although it wasn't the intention. The original plan was to have Gemerald take on Xena solo. Yes, he's a machine, and Xena, like all the Zeti, can take control of him. But with limited numbers available, they were hoping to take advantage of Xena's vanity in some way. Cream was told to stay behind for safety reasons, but since this plan has the greatest chance of getting her family back, she follows Gemerald through the portal to help. Good thing too since, surprise surprise, Xena takes over Gemerald. However, thanks to the power of, protecting Cream, Gemerald breaks free of Xena's control. It's touch and go for a bit until Cream yanks the emerald from Xena, and Gemerald tosses her into a horde of Zombots. This victory is bittersweet as Cream got infected during the fight. Gemerald then tosses the emerald back through the portal, and flies off with Cream so she doesn't have to be alone. That's 5 emeralds down, but what about the remaining 2? Don't worry, they're coming. Zavok correctly guessed that Eggman retreated to Angel Island and flies the face ship towards it, followed by an army of Zombots. Before he can bear down on the floating landmass, Rouge makes her move and yanks the Chaos Emerald from the throne chair, thus depriving the face ship of power and causing it to crash. That's 6 emeralds down. Unfortunately, Zavok still has the final emerald, and he uses its power to grow giant size. He directly attacks the island by blasting fire through his mouth and tossing handfuls of Zombots onto it. Among them, a number of converted heroes. It's do or die time. Sonic has an idea that'll help the plan succeed, but he'll need both Silver and Metal Sonic's help. The latter carries Sonic to Zavok, while the former follows with the gathered gems. They better hurry since things on Angel Island are going south, with the remaining heroes fighting their friends. Eggman takes the chance to betray the heroes and tries to go for the escape shuttle. However, his efforts were thwarted by Zombot Froggy. Sonic and Metal Sonic struggle to get close to giant veiny Zavok, but the robotic doppelganger managed to get Sonic on top of him before getting taken out. At this point, Sonic's exhausted and he's almost consumed by the virus. But he does make it to the Emerald. Silver arrives with the remaining gems, and despite Zavok's attempt to stop them, it's too late. Sonic has become Super, the Chaos Energy burning away all trace of the metal virus. Not only that, the Chaos Emeralds allow Silver to become Super. The first time it happened since... yeah. After Sonic quickly takes care of Zavok, he and Silver enact the world-saving plan with the Warp Topaz. He will control the outgoing destination, while Silver uses his power to strip the metal virus off every living thing and send it through the portal. Oh, and said destination? Straight into the sun. Friends, companions, and families reunite. Cream and Gemerald took the long way back to Angel Island in case Sonic succeeds. However, Starline wasn't kidding about the warping gem having a bad reaction to too much power. So once every trace of metal virus is gone from the planet, Sonic plans to chuck it through the portal. Instead, there was an explosion. Silver survives and crashes back onto Angel Island, but Sonic is nowhere to be found. Sonic's disappearance isn't the only concern right now. Zavok, despite a supersonic beatdown, is ready to terrorize his nearest victims, which just happens to be Cream and her mother. Thankfully, most of the heroes quickly come to their aid, and he's subdued. That's all fine and dandy, but there are still 5 Zeddy out there, either on the run, in hiding, or trying to find Zavok. It gets worse as thanks to all of these distractions, Eggman finishes his goal of escaping on the shuttle. He has Metal Sonic rescue Orbot and Cubot from the face ship wreckage, and delays Shadow long enough for the shuttle to reach escape altitude. To further brighten Eggman's day, he finds Omega's head inside, giving him an idea. Despite this setback, the heroes begin cleaning up the world, though Amy has reached the breaking point with being the Restoration's leader. Luckily, Jewel arrives and offers to take over administration duties. Elsewhere, Tails and Tangle rescue Rough and Tumble from the hole they were placed in at the start of this mess. They show their gratitude by heading off to cause more mayhem. It's during this scene that Tangle reveals she's invited everyone to her town for a World is Saved party. Most will be there. The only ones not attending are Knuckles, who's still guarding the Master Emerald, Shadow, who's kicking himself for not listening to Sonic and Rouge about running off the metal virus, Silver, who's returned to the future to find it a peaceful utopia for a change, and Sonic because he's still MIA. There will be an uninvited guest to the party, Eggman. He places Omega's head in a new identical body, then hooks him up to a mech resembling that body. The idea being he's going to siphon power off Omega. He crashes the party, hoping to eliminate Sonic's friends before the Hedgehog's eventual return. Because of the Restoration's change of leadership, there is confusion on how to engage the mech. Thankfully, Vector steps up and tells everyone to attack it based on their skill set. For the most part, the heroes hold their own, Gemerald briefly getting captured notwithstanding. However, Eggman's determined not to let them win, even if he has to get his hands dirty himself. Our heroic gang wishes Sonic was here right now. So what happened to him? He wound up teleported to Blaze's dimension. As stated earlier, he was controlling the outbound destination. So when the gem went haywire, his mind probably slipped up and started thinking of things related to the sun, as in solar or soul. Until it's officially stated why, that's my best guess. Similar to Eggman when he messed with the Phantom Ruby, Sonic messing with the Warp Topaz resulted in amnesia. The name he's calling himself? Mr. Needle Mouse. After trying to jog his memory, Blaze decides to bring out the big guns, or emeralds. Using the power of the Soul Emeralds, she successfully changes Mr. Needle Mouse into Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic thanks her and has her send him back to his world, right into the middle of the party fight. His arrival turns the tide as he frees Omega from the mech. Omega then obliterates the mech as Eggman escapes, though it results in Omega falling to pieces again thanks to overclocking. If you ignore that, and Eggman escaping once again, the future is looking up for our heroes. One question remains. What happened to Dr. Starline after he was tossed through the portal? He's currently in his hideaway. At first, he plans to strike out on his own away from Eggman, then he decides, nah, I'm going to conquer the world in Eggman's name, and hopefully, he'll appreciate my genius enough that we'll become equals side by side. That's an ambitious plan, Starline, but you'll need more resources in order to pull this off. If 2019 was considered the year of Tangle and Whisper, then 2020 is the year of Starline. I'll get more into that later on, but for now, let's talk about a miniseries that features him as the central protagonist, Bad Guys. It has him trying to go after those resources to enact his future plans. Specifically, an entire Eggman industrial complex called Egg Base Sigma. His initial attempts to take over the base fail when Eggman revoked all of Starline's access codes, and he barely escapes. Should've seen that one coming. Ever since he lost his warping gem, he's made some new tools that'll help him in the short term. But as he notes in his log entry at his hideout, he needs something else if he's going to last against the likes of Sonic and Shadow. In order to get that, along with the base, he decides he'll need some cannon fodder who also hate Eggman. What better way to find such individuals than in a prison? He hypnotizes the Warden, one of the new features mentioned earlier, to lead him into the maximum security area. There, Starline finds his disposable help, the shapeshifter Mimic from the Tangle and Whisper miniseries, Rough and Tumble. They're in here because the aforementioned Mayhem was trying to take over Barricade Town again, but the locals were ready this time. And finally, Zavok. After knocking out the Warden, Starline tries to convince them that Eggman wronged all of them, and together, they can take revenge. Starline gives some additional incentives to each individual. For Mimic, Starline will erase his files from the Eggnet. He fears Eggman catching and punishing him for failing to kill Whisper. For Rough and Tumble, offering them free weapons is good enough. Zavok will be the hardest to convince. Starline offers himself as a servant as a measure of good faith, even though he plans to backstab him later. Zavok does want revenge against Eggman, but he also wants to find the rest of the Zeti, and he knows Starline is up to something, but agrees to Starline's proposal. That's when the Warden wakes up to sound the alarm. And so, the breakout begins. Each member of this newly formed group contributes something during the escape. They make their way to the control room where Zavok orders Starline to open all the cell doors. The ensuing riots and chaos allow the group to waltz out of the facility unchallenged. At Starline's hideout, he explains how they will get revenge against Eggman. In reality, it's to help Starline gain Egg Base Sigma. Step 1 is to raid one of Eggman's facilities containing these items. Power Cores. The very same ones from Sonic Heroes. Speed Blue, Flight Yellow, and Power Red. Starline claims they'll need adapters to harness the core's energy. That's a lie, as he knows just touching the core will power one up. They'll need these enhancements in order to carry out Step 2, take over an Eggman hub. It is at this location where Starline could purge Mimic's files. Zavok wonders if he can gain control of Eggman's Badnik army from there. Starline says only the Badniks in the same region as the hub are susceptible to this. Eggman put failsafes to prevent the entire army from being reprogrammed from a single hub. The raid on the Power Core facility actually goes smoothly. Yes, there seems to be a sense of camaraderie between the members of this group. During this, Starline discussed Starline's reliance on robots until he drops this bombshell. Eggman will never take Starline back, meaning he is aware of Starline's ultimate goal. Surprisingly, Zavok gives some useful advice. You don't need Eggman, you can surpass him. Be better. Even more of a surprise? Starline takes this advice under consideration. Once the Skunk Brothers take out a robotic T-Rex guarding the Power Core warehouse, in a way that impressed the others, they start loading the crates. Starline alters the security footage to make it appear it was Sonic causing the mayhem, and not them. Mimic providing the Hedgehog's likeness, of course. They seem to get away scot-free, but when Eggman inspects the carnage, he knows something's up. To him, Why would Sonic be at the Power Core facility, and the editing is too sloppy to be Tails' handiwork? Editing skills aside, Starline successfully crafts a means to take on the likes of Sonic and Shadow. By combining the 3 core types, he's created the Tri-Core, which allows him to tap into and switch between those powers at a whim. With one of his goals achieved, he prepares for the Egg Hub takeover. During this, Starline considers the possibility of keeping some of the group, like Rough and Tumble, for his future plans, but decides it's too risky. Once Starline gets Egg-based Sigma, he'll eliminate all of them for being too dangerous. That may not be a good idea, Starline, considering Zavok's the most dangerous one. Also, it's not wise to record all of this in a vlog, considering there's a shapeshifter that can take your form to bypass security features. Mimic and Zavok find out about Starline's betrayal. Zavok already suspected something when he got a power surge from grabbing the power sphere without an adapter. It's also revealed that the single core adapters, or core gears, are legit, but they are a one-time only thing compared to the mileage Starline will get from the Tri-Core. To put it bluntly, Starline's using the others to field test the cores in a combat situation. Mimic wants to kill Starline now, but Zavok convinces him to wait until they get what they want from him. The next morning, when the group arrives at the Egg Hub, Starline gives them each a gear containing a core that closely resembles their natural abilities. Starline claims he doesn't need one for this operation, though secretly he has the Tri-Core in his pocket just in case. The attack goes fine, and the computer room is secured. However, this draws Eggman's attention. He flies out with his Batnik forces to deal with the troublemakers. Starline knows about this and manages to direct Eggman away from the hub for the time being. Before he can claim Egg-based Sigma for himself, Zavok and Mimic make their move, forcing Starline to give the former control of all regional Batniks and wipe all files of the latter. Also, Zavok manages to turn Rough and Tumble against Starline. With no other choice, Starline slaps on the Tri-Core to escape. Zavok, Rough, and Tumble pursue, while Zavok has Mimic stay in the computer room in case Starline returns. Mimic, though, got what he wanted, so he decides to bail. Before leaving to have an unpleasant reunion with Whisper, he arranges things so that Eggman and his Batnik Armada come straight to the hub to bomb it to smithereens, especially since he spots Zavok, and only Zavok, on the security feed. Starline encounters Rough and later Tumble and takes them both out with another of his new tools he's utilized throughout this arc, the Multi-Tool Heel Spurs, so named because he can switch modes depending on the opponent. In Rough and Tumble's case, it's Paralyzing Toxin. A nice shout out to his species. Starline wisely doesn't take on Zavok. Instead, he hides and allows him and his Batnik forces to pass. This does allow Zavok to call out Starline for his actions, stating it's no different than what Eggman would have done. Starline takes these words to heart. He's been an Eggman fanboy for so long, he didn't realize until now he's been emulating his idol, not only in terms of plans, but in obsession. In this case, he's been focusing on getting rid of his cannon fodder, rather than, say, allowing them to part ways peacefully after achieving their goals. He wanted nothing to get in the way of his long-term plans, which include a couple of specimens inside some green tubes. All Starline can do for now is finish what he started and transfer control of Egg-based Sigma over to him. It's a good thing he returned to the computer room when he did, since he spots Eggman's forces rapidly approaching. He barely has enough time to finish the task and speed away. Zavok finds the paralyzed Rough and Tumble, and between them being too weak to get up, their core gears giving out, and general frustration all around, Zavok abandons them. So much for camaraderie. Rough and Tumble learn the only ones they can rely on is each other. The paralysis wears off enough for them to get away, leaving only Zavok for Eggman to confront when he arrives. In the end, Eggman bombs the hub to bits, rather than letting Zavok keep it. Zavok survived thanks to his core gear, but it breaks due to the stress. All Zavok has left is a single Batnik, and it helps him to safety. Once he recovers, he'll track down the rest of the Zeti. The entire incident has Eggman puzzled. Zavok could not have done all of this by himself, so he vows to find the true mastermind. That true mastermind, Starline, is setting up shop at Egg-based Sigma. He's ready to continue his long-term plans with new clarity. He will conquer the world for himself and show Eggman how it's done. The purpose of this miniseries is to not only have Starline finally get over his Eggman obsession, it also reestablishes some independent villains that'll cause headaches for Eggman and the heroes. For an ongoing comic series, this is kind of necessary. We don't want things to get too repetitive around here. Zavik in particular seems to have been given something of a code. At least that's how I see it. He respects his non-Zeti teammates as long as they perform to his standards. He even gives some advice to help them out every now and then, but if they do things he disapproves of, like betraying him or show weakness, he tosses them aside. It is this attitude, along with Starline's betrayal and Mimic's habit of running off when things get too hot, that permanently ruins any hope for a future alliance. Which is a shame since, as I pointed out, there seems to have been a sense of camaraderie. Goes to show that often, when villains team up, things tend to fall apart at certain points thanks to betrayal, ego, and so on. Let's see how heroes work together towards a single goal. Before we get into the last story arc of Year 3, some quick behind the scenes information. Ian Flynn, head writer of the Sonic comics, has stepped aside his duties on the main book for the immediate future. He's still involved with the books in some fashion. In fact, he wrote the Bad Guys miniseries. The main book for the time being is being penned by Evan Stanley, the same one I mentioned earlier. She has experience writing various Sonic-related stories, and I'm not just talking about her fanfic series. She's done a story arc in the Archie Sonic spin-off series starring Silver the Hedgehog. She's just as much of a Sonic fan as Ian, and the two will be working together to make sure their ideas more or less align when he eventually comes back to the main book. For now, let's head straight to Evan's first story arc of the series. At Tails' workshop, he, along with Sonic, Amy, and Rouge, gather Omega's broken pieces. Tails may be a genius that can rival Eggman, but even he can't just assemble egg tech willy-nilly. Rouge acquired Omega's plans from the Face Ship, but they're written in a way that only Eggman or a creation like Orbot can understand. Otherwise, Tails will need a special cipher to decode them. He'll also need a set of E100 series parts, and Eggman doesn't keep those easily available to outsiders. Sonic can help with the first problem. He's passed by an old Eggman base near Windmill Village, and he and Tails can download the cipher from there. As for the robot parts, Rouge has an idea. Located in the White Park area is a dealer named Clutch that specializes in rare goods, including Eggman tech. He's also the current champion of White Park's Chow races. So in order to meet him, they'll have to enter the races themselves. Amy phones the Rabbit household to see if Cream and Cheese can come with them to White Park. She explains to Vanilla that it's to help Tails fix Omega. Cream overhears this and she wants to go along, not only with Cheese, but Gemerald as well. He's still dinged up after the party fight, and Cream hopes Tails can fix him too. With that, Vanilla gives permission for them to go with Amy and Rouge to White Park. On their way there, the group runs into, or almost runs into, Shadow, who's just standing in the road. Rather than joining them, Shadow heads off. He has his own business in White Park that doesn't concern them. Upon reaching the White Park Chateau, the group settles in. The MCs running the races, which are the Omochow, tells participants to register their Chow for the qualifying round. Rouge has to say Cheese is her Chow since minors cannot sign up. Sorry, Cream. Cheese has some difficulty with the qualifying race, especially since this dark Chow resembling Shadow forces them into the water, but they quickly recover enough to be qualified for the Grand Prix. Afterwards, Clutch, who watched the races and is the owner of the Shadow Chow, approaches the group and invites Rouge to his penthouse apartment for a private meeting. She doesn't go alone as inside her briefcase is Omega's head. Inside the penthouse is a treasure trove of goodies and various robotic parts. Clutch awaits among the horde. He offers the following proposal. If Cheese wins the race tomorrow, Rouge can have her pick of anything in this room. Only catch is, she'll have to hand Cheese over to him. He always has his eye on winning Chow, and as long as they win, he'll treat them well. Rouge agrees to the deal, except she's not going to honor it. She has a surprise of her own, which involves leaving Omega's head behind among the junk. Outside the penthouse, Rouge encounters a mysterious hooded figure. Upon lifting the hood, Rouge recognizes who it is. The next morning, she meets up with the others at breakfast, keeping her meeting with Clutch and the hooded figure to herself. The day's Chow races soon begin, and Cheese seems to be doing well. During the final race, Cheese is once again competing against the Shadow Chow, who tries the same dirty tricks as in the prelims. This time, Cheese is ready and causes the Dark Chow to fall into the water. And with that, Cheese wins the race. Rouge is about to take Cheese with her to Clutch's penthouse, but Amy, Cream, and General insist they come along. Later, when they all meet, Clutch prepares to inspect his newest prize. That's when Rouge says something, that's obviously a code phrase, that's supposed to have Omega spring into action. Only nothing happens. Clutch recognizes when he's being played and prepares to take action, until Shadow arrives carrying Omega's head. A good roundhouse kick knocks the possum right out. Before leaving, Shadow points why Clutch deserves a kick to the face. He imprisons and mistreats Chow that are not considered winners. They need to figure out how to get the locks off the cage with little risk to the Chow. Rouge heads off to call Tails so he can pick out what parts he'll need for Omega. I don't know about you, but does she seem a bit off? Let's check in on Sonic and Tails. They navigate their way to a computer room full of creepy training dolls of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Tails gets to work hacking for the cipher. It requires all of his concentration just to make sure Eggman's computer doesn't detect him breaking through the firewall. What the two don't know is, they're not alone. Someone is watching them, hidden among the junk. Not for long, as a bored Sonic kicked a screw directly into the hiding place, revealing a robotic girl in the form of a wooden marionette. Sonic right away goes to attack her. He thinks she's a badnik after all, though it is clear she does not know how or want to fight him, as she dodges his attacks. Sonic manages to pull on her tail, but this causes her to involuntarily kick him in the face. Note this for later. Tails stops this before it gets too far. The wooden puppet robot girl, whose name is Belle, is in the base because she is looking for her creator, who is not Eggman. Tails is so distracted with Belle and her construction, he forgot about that pesky firewall. The computer sounds the alarm and reactivates all the badniks to deal with the intruders. It took some work, but the three of them managed to escape the base. Immediately afterwards, telling them to come to White Park because she needs their help. Funny, things seem to fine on her end. Sonic and Tails prepare to leave, and Belle wants to come along. She has nowhere else to go, and wants to prove she's useful. Sonic reluctantly agrees, and the trio are off to White Park. Sonic and Belle meet up with Amy in the chateau while Tails heads for Rouge off-panel. She takes them to Clutch's penthouse where she explains about the caged Chow. Belle offers to open all of the locks, stating if there's something that needs tinkering, she's your girl. And Cream just got a new friend. Amy pulls Sonic aside and says Rouge has been acting weird lately. She has a bad feeling about her and Tails. Sonic eases her worry by tracking them down. Amy's bad feeling is justified because when we next see Tails and Rouge, they're tied up on a wooden roller coaster controlled by the hooded figure. Tails wonders why Rouge would ambush him. Off-panel, of course. Rouge explains it wasn't of her own free will. Let's go back to the moment Rouge first encountered the hooded figure. Afterwards, we see Shadow, who's at White Park because he's hoping the mysterious Clutch could lead him to Eggman, sees the figure heading off with Rouge in tow. The figure not only displays incredible agility in the air, but is very fast and super powerful when taking on Shadow. Shadow didn't walk away from this defeat empty-handed. He managed to snatch away the card Rouge got from Clutch earlier, explaining why he was at the penthouse, where he found Omega's head and the caged Chow. When the edgy character thinks this act is vile, you know you've hit a new low. Rouge says to Tails, the figure hypnotized her for information, and to bring him and Sonic here so she can ambush the former. Yeah, I'm not dancing around the hooded figure's identity anymore. It's Dr. Starline. The hooded figure mystery was necessary because this arc was released at the same time as the Bad Guys miniseries, where we first saw the origins of his new abilities. And this arc takes place immediately afterwards in-universe. They were trying not to ruin things for the readers. Whatever plans Starline had in White Park, they clearly changed when he spotted Rouge and company at the chateau. Now he's taken Rouge and Tails to his base to further his plans. Sonic, and later Shadow, find them and give chase. Starline planned for this possibility and sets off an explosion, causing a massive avalanche to head towards the chateau. Sonic and Shadow are fast enough to intercept, but Shadow would rather go after Starline because of what happened earlier. So Sonic heads for the avalanche at Tails' insistence. Besides, Shadow doesn't even get a chance to take on Starline. After Rouge frees herself thanks to a sharp piece of the roller coaster, she says the code phrase that causes Omega to finally spring into action. Oh yeah, Starline also took Omega's head. He might be regretting it now. Starline flies off and Shadow wants to follow, prompting Rouge to say, "Sure, go after Starline to mend your pride, or you can help Sonic save the innocents in the chateau," which includes Amy's group. That's not the only problem Amy and company would face. Right after Sonic left to find Rouge and Tails, it turns out Clutch the Possum was playing possum. Just before he leaves, he activates the Badniks in his room, which are a means of dealing with double-crossers and deal-breakers. Amy has trouble with the larger one, while Gemerald gets swarmed with the smaller ones as he's protecting Cream and Belle. I think that's why he wasn't fixed, to nerf his abilities a bit. As Belle finishes unlocking the cage, Cream pleads with all the Chao inside to help them take on the Badniks. And they agree, and once out, they turn the tide in the hero's favor. This victory is short-lived as Tails and Rouge bust through the ceiling. They need to quickly gather the necessary parts and leave before the avalanche arrives. Shadow arrives to give Sonic some much-needed help, stating he owes him for what happened in Sunset City. Oh, better late than never. They cut down a bunch of trees to dam the avalanche. It works, for a few seconds before it breaks. So much for that. The inside group convinces every Chao to evacuate the chateau guests, after using Amy's hammer to persuade it. During this, Starline reappears. He's dead set on kidnapping Tails, and he almost succeeds. That's when Tails literally pulls the same thing Sonic did back in the Eggman base, forcing Belle to kick Starline in the face. This buys time for everyone but Starline to get out of range of the avalanche. Everyone else is safe on the upper levels, Sonic and Shadow meet up with the others, they have the parts they need, and Sonic's now cool with Belle. Helping them through the crisis scores major points in his view. Belle helps again at the workshop as she reads off Omega's blueprints, allowing Tails to finally put Omega back together. Now recall what I said earlier, about how only Eggman and a creation of his like Orbot can read the plans without the cipher. They failed to get the cipher, yet Belle was able to read the plans with no problem. This prompts Tails to question, who made her? Again, she points out that Eggman did not make her, but she doesn't reveal her actual creator. I'll discuss this more in the next section, but I think many of us can figure out who it is at this point. Oh yeah, Gemerald's patched up too. Vanilla arrives to get Cream, who spills the beans on everything that's happened. Rouge bails, leaving Amy to take the possible blame. Outside, Sonic and Shadow thank each other in their own way. Shadow even gives the Shadow Chao some food. I don't know if it's just a nod to the official art featuring these two, but I would like to see him adopt the little guy. Might improve his mood a bit. The arc, and year 3 overall, officially end with Starline recovering at his base. While he failed to capture Tails, he did take some of his fur, which is good enough for his plans. Even after he stopped admiring Eggman, he's still taking cues from him. Well, one version of him at least. With the conclusion of the Metal Virus saga, I believe this story is a printed version of a Sonic game. Most notably, events tend to repeat themselves in different locations, like levels. Plus, it draws ideas from previous games. Sonic getting altered in some fashion, Eggman causing mayhem throughout the world, eventually he teams up with the heroes when something, or someone, hijacks the plot. In this case, he once again lost control to these guys. Sonic is out of commission, and the heroes split up to gather the Chaos Emeralds to help him, and finally, Sonic turning super during the climax to end the threat. Bonus points if another Super Hedgehog helps him. I don't know about you, but I would like to play a game version of this story. If anything, it would add a new spin to the boost formula by having it burn off Sonic's infection. As for the saga itself, I enjoyed it overall. It pushed the characters who are near identical to their game counterparts to their limits, and have them do things they wouldn't consider doing. Even an original comic character like Whisper was ready to outright kill Eggman for this mess before Cream stopped her. She did just lose Tangle at that point, but still. At least the heroes regained enough fighting spirit to help save the day when it mattered. Special shout out to Cream and Gemerald. Admittedly, they have a very sweet dynamic. Something that would continue in the Chao Races and Bannock Bases arc, the Deadly Six hijacking the plot at the tail end. Some people might not like this development, probably because they originate from a game that is essentially Sonic the Hedgehog does Super Mario, and they are considered joke villains. I was leery of their appearance at first, but as the story progressed, it did make sense in context. And since a better writer was handling these characters, we see them do things worthy of the moniker the Deadly Six, like torturing sapient beings rather than little critters. It makes the hero's victory over them a little sweeter. And the thing is, for the time being, they're sticking around on Sonic's world, so, apart from Zavok, their appearance in future stories is only a matter of time. Did the Metal Virus saga run too long? Arguably, yes, but as Ian Flynn explained, it was needed to fully explore the full ramifications of this worldwide event. Part of the reason it dragged was the issues were getting delayed for a bit, especially during the early parts of 2020. Yeah, I'll quickly bring this up. The conclusion of this arc, again released in 2020, unfortunately happened right when a real-life global pandemic got started, so it'll always have that stigma attached to it. The Aftermath arc's purpose is to re-establish a status quo involving putting the world back together, having Eggman attack the heroes the old-fashioned way, and rearranging character roles. Yes, I'll miss Amy's role as an organization leader, but we need an excuse for her to go back out adventuring like the good old days. The one negative in this arc is the Mr. Needlemouse subplot. I know it's a reason to get Sonic out of the way for a few issues, but I wish more was done with that. And while it is great to see Blaze, her appearance is wasted here. Still, the arc has its positives like Silver getting a good future for a change. After all he's been through, he's definitely earned this victory. And Shadow possibly realizing he's screwed up. Too bad that won't last. Evan Stanley's first story arc exists to not only wrap up a remaining plot thread from the Metal Virus saga, it sets the tone for the comic's new direction for the time being. Smaller scale stories with an emphasis on world building. We got to see how Chao races work out in the open, along with its more seedier side. Shame the races themselves were cast aside in favor of the Starline situation. We'll get to Starline in a bit. What we do get is an antagonist that's more street level, but can be a pain to the heroes when he needs to be. Well, certain heroes at least. I doubt this is the last we'll see of him. His operations have to expand beyond White Park. Perhaps he's part of a larger criminal underworld. One point against this arc, besides less focus on the Chao races, is Shadow's appearance. He ultimately did not contribute to the story, and, given a simple rewrite, it would have been easy to have Amy take out Clutch with her hammer. Rumor was, the arc was supposed to be a Team Dark outing, but got changed to what was eventually released. I'm guessing Shadow's presence is a leftover of this idea. The arc also brings us the character of Belle. First impressions, she is likable, and she has a unique design, being a robot in the form of a wooden puppet. I wouldn't be surprised if Pinocchio was on Evan's mind when she made her. Belle is not based on any specific animal. She kinda reminds me of the Warners from Animaniacs, only more orange. As for her creator, I'm going to flat out say it now. It has to be Mr. Tinker, aka the good persona of Dr. Eggman when he temporarily lost his memory. There are numerous clues scattered throughout Belle's debut arc. Her outfit is reminiscent of Tinker's. She was found in an old Eggman base near Windmill Village, Tinker's home for a while, and there's her tinkering line with that word bolded. Also, if you pair Tinker's name with Belle's, need I say more? Did Evan Stanley watch Disney movies while coming up with this arc? There are some unanswered questions like why Belle refused to mention her creator by name. That though might have been fear related. The big question is, when did Tinker build her? It had to have been after issue 6 since she wasn't present when Sonic, Shadow, Rouge, and the Chaotix first encountered him. Unless she was in hiding. Given Belle's involvement in the next story arc, hopefully Sonic, Tails, etc. can learn who built Belle before the plot thread is stretched too long. Now for the one who set Tinker's demise in motion. As I said, this was Starline's year. Not only because he had a short story in the annual and his own miniseries, it's also because his actions steered things in a way that ultimately benefited the heroes. If he had not brought the Deadly Six into the main world, the final story portion of the Metal Virus saga would not have happened. Eggman would have fled to another planet. I'm serious. It was Starline's warping gem that was key to saving the world, and he was the final antagonist of Year 3. Some might not like him because he's made some dumb and frustrating decisions, but look at it like this. He's been an Eggman fanboy his whole life who is just entering the villain business. He's got a ways to go before he can be a match for Eggman in terms of threat level. But he has achieved some victories since breaking off from the main villain. He took over an entire industrial complex without Eggman catching him, and despite losing out to Tails thanks to Belle and his own avalanche, he's still got some of the fox's fur. It might be related to the contents of the green tubes. We'll see where his journey goes from here. He's also an example of the Ryder collaboration I spoke of earlier. His hypnotism feature is actually Evan's contribution. She based it on the machine Starline used on Mr. Tinker in issue 11, and Ian was kind enough to include it in the Bad Guys miniseries first. The communication between the two is not as smooth as one thinks. Evan planned her story arc assuming Starline would still have his warping gem, not knowing Ian switched it out in favor of the Tricore. Things did eventually work out as you saw. I wonder if Starline, who now has the power of the Tricore, could be added to Sonic mobile games like comic characters Tangle and Whisper. Yeah, these two were popular enough to be added to Sonic Dash and Sonic Forces. Your mileage may vary on whether or not this is a good thing since mobile games have certain factors working against them. But hey, Tangle and Whisper are sorta game characters now. So 2020 wasn't all bad. Tying everything together, if Year 3 had an overall theme, it would be endings and new beginnings. So what's in store for Year 4? As far as storylines go, the first story arc will feature Sonic, Tails, and Amy trapped in a mysterious Eggman experiment, with Tangle and Belle trying to help them from the outside. It will be interesting how Belle would react to the true version of her father in person. And perhaps we can finally get details of her creation. Ian Flynn will return to the main book as he handles the second story arc of the year, Zeddy Hunt. Yes, we'll see what's happening with the individual members of the Deadly Six in the wake of the Metal Virus going bye-bye. Told you it was only a matter of time. There's no word of a 2021 annual yet, but there will be a miniseries this year. In case you don't know, this year marks the 30th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, and IDW is getting in on the celebration with a miniseries starring classic Sonic. I wonder how that's going to work, and what story will be told. I'm sure there will be more surprises throughout the year. Hopefully the good kind. Anyway, thank you all for joining me on this very long Year 3 look back, and I'll see you in Year 4.